I would say that we've come a long way in the past 18 months, when I used to turn up to classes with a computer and a projector or a pop-up screen, and now I'm able to. I'll be back at where I'm meant to be in 10 minutes, but I'm able to record this live on Zoom, live on YouTube, and I'm able to speak to you guys out in the open, and I'm able to tell you about history and archaeology around the world. And that brings us back to Antarctica, because one of the massive intriguing things that I was learning about Antarctica is the historical archaeology, because we've got a land that in 30 years people will be sitting around trying to decide what to do with it. Antarctica is one of those places that the archaeology is actually being revealed every single day. And how do I put that concept across? Well, usually in archaeology, you've got the likes of aerial photography. And when you take an aerial photograph, you're taking an image of the landscape as it is. So say, for example, you fly over a hill fort in Landsborough Major, and you see the banks and ditches, you see all the other information at different times of the year that the hill fort at Landsborough Major tells us. Now that's obvious. Or let's think of the woodland, along Dimlands Road near St. Donat's. So you fly above that, and you can't use aerial photography. You use LiDAR, and the LiDAR itself can give you topographical information of the landscape. And now, because of the high resonance of the photographs that they're actually taking, you can understand what's underneath those trees. So with all that said, Antarctica is very, very different, because it all starts with Antarctican archaeology, not today, but it all starts at the time of the Cold War. And what we do find is that there's those stories in the Arctic and Antarctica of hidden Nazi bases from the Second World War. And then you go into the Arctic and Antarctica, and you start to think about the Cold War. So you think about the Bay of Pigs, 1963, and you think about, this is when we're really getting into the Cold War. And places like the Arctic and Antarctica are the new fighting grounds. So what we do, we see that lots of countries have claimed the likes of Antarctica over the years. In fact, interestingly enough, on the 27th of January in the year 1820, the Russians claimed a chunk of Antarctica. The Russians, of all people. The problem is that as a land that's being actively explored, we turned to only 200 years ago. So that leaves us with a bit of a dichotomy. Is this land itself a land that's only been occupied by people since the 1820s? The answer is no. However, back to the original question that I was trying to answer. When you've got Antarctica, the archaeology is being revealed as the snow is melting. Now that is very different than any aerial photograph that you'd usually find. So back to those aerial photographs. What you would usually find is that aerial photographs themselves would reveal a landscape, say before the Second World War, in green pastures that were not really affected. But after the late 1930s, the Dig for Britain project decided that we dig up large tracts of this landscape. So those banks and ditches, and particularly when you look at the airfields at Landau, and you think about the airfields at St. Athan, those landscapes have been ripped up and tarmacked, flattened, and all those humps and bumps of burial mounds have almost inevitably been lost forever. So as they removed the airfield in some parts of St. Athan and lots of Landau, those former mounds that were visible in aerial photography before are no longer there. But Antarctica is different because what we do find is from Cold War imagery, say 1966, the American and the Russian, and not so much the Australian and the likes of the British and the French, were sending spy planes over the landscape of Antarctica. And what they would see is chimneys, evidence of smoke, and nothing much more. Now, the difference is now, as we start to take aerial photographs, those hidden bases and that hidden landscape is the new archaeology of today. It's the archaeology that's been revealed. So it's as opposed to the other aerial photography that I've just described. So this is one of the great things that we do find, that the archaeology of Antarctica is now being revealed. Now, excuse me if you want a lecture on prehistory and you want a lecture on the Romans or the medieval period in regards to Antarctica. You're not going to get that. However, my reading tells me something very, very interesting. 2 points. What we do find is that, I mentioned those Russians. 27th of January 1920. This is before, 3 years before the discovery at Pavlan Cave on the Gower. This is 5 years after the Battle of Waterloo. And we're in a historical period. And we're in a period of great discovery. In Antarctica, it's called the heroic period. Heroic. People going to explore a land that nobody had apparently ever been to. But as we will see with an article, whether it's before or after the break, they found some remains of a Chilean woman that predates the 1820s. So that's a very interesting thing. You've got evidence of people from Chile living on Antarctica before the Russians get there. And I mentioned about this claim thing. I mentioned about in 30 years' time, they're going to have to come up with a solution. What happens to Antarctica? Who claims Antarctica? And the people from Chile are actually saying, because our human remains are the earliest human remains to be dated as being found in Antarctica, therefore we make a claim. Very interesting that, Antarctica, it was decided, was to be a great nature reserve. It was to be the great unspoilt landscape of the globe. And people are thinking, talking about politics, people are thinking that what might happen with Antarctica is that there's going to be a rush by the Russians, the Chinese, the Americans, and whoever else to get the mineral resources of Antarctica. But that's in 30 years' time. We might not even need coal in 30 years' time. We'll certainly need oil as lubricants for lots of things, but we're not going to need lots of the minerals and other resources that Antarctica might have, like iron and so on. Mind you, if it's got other things like zinc and cadmium and lithium, then we might need to mine there. But I'm saying all this, and I dismissed anyone wanting a lecture on the Romans or the prehistoric period. But the interesting thing is, the first gem of information that we understand about Antarctica doesn't actually come from Captain Cook in 1773, when Captain Cook is said to have found South Shetland and put a flag there, and South Georgia as well. It was that was when we believe that Antarctica was discovered, except it was the islands of Antarctica was discovered. But let's not troll around with this and that and who claims this and who's the better one. So what I want to do, I'm actually 3 minutes away from my gate. So I've got all the information to actually share with you. Would you be surprised to hear? This is very awkward to put across because it makes me sound like a complete fantasist, but this is what the information's saying. Would it surprise us to hear that thousands of miles north, before the birth of Christ, people believed that Antarctica actually existed in Europe? Greek and Roman cartographers, geographers, mathematicians, astronomers did actually believe that Antarctica existed. Because if you read the subtext, well, no, don't read the subtext a minute. If you read the text says that they presumed Antarctica existed. They presumed Antarctica existed because they could have never have had any knowledge that Antarctica was there. It was thousands and thousands of miles south. But the subtext is this. When you have a good look at the situation, you start to realize these same cartographers 2,000 years ago, yes, 2,000 years ago, not 200 years ago with the Russians, 2,000 years ago in Greek and Roman Europe, what we do find is that they had no knowledge of North and South America, but they had a knowledge of Antarctica, which I believe is very, very strange. If you're going to do guesswork, what land existed in North and South America, but they said about Antarctica, and they also knew about the Arctic, even though nobody had been there. So these highly intelligent men were telling us about the existence of Antarctica. And guess what Antarctica means? It means South Land. Australis, Antarctica. The land itself, the name Antarctica comes from a name given to us nearly 2,000 years ago, which is absolutely massively intriguing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a quick break and I'm going to jump into where I need to be to actually show you these images. So bear with me a second. Oh, by the way, it's not raining. And it's sort of okay. So let's get into the mobile. This is where we're going to be. Right, excellent. Ooh, I'm here now. I put that there. If I put that there, and I put this here, and we're all okay. Good. Happy days. All right then, folks, good. Right, so Henry, whilst I'm getting my images up, right? What do you think about all this so far? Is this what you thought? Is this what you think about Antarctica? What do you think?
It actually starts, not that I know an awful lot about Antarctica, but it starts to raise questions about what history could be there that's actually not being obviously discovered to date. You know, the fact that Greek and Romans have actually depicted Antarctica is extremely fascinating.
I think sorry to interrupt. I think the word fascinating is a bit of an understatement. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely intriguing, to say the least. Now, when I did the research on this on Tuesday, it was one of those odd things, right? And one of the questions, so I did interrupt then, and I do apologize. One of the odd things is that somebody did actually ask the same thing as you. What else could be there, right? What else could possibly be there? And when you think about it, if you want to look at the Arctic, right? If we look at the Arctic, for example, people were living at the Arctic. When we think about the Vikings, people were living in the Arctic 1,000 years ago, right? Because it was warmer. Yeah. So if they were living in the Arctic when it was warmer, 2 degrees warmer than it is today, why couldn't people have been living in Antarctica? It just makes good sense, but we can't even talk about that because there's no evidence for it yet. But the ice itself in Antarctica is meters and meters thick. I think there was what was it I saw recently? 14,000 feet thick in places in ice. So basically, what I want to do is I just want to show you some images because we haven't seen any images today. So let's have a look at some images before Goff complains. I remember I did one lecture with Goff a while ago, and he said there was no images today. I was really disappointed. So I got to make sure I cut some images in. And actually, the best images. Just think of that. So when we're thinking about Antarctica, are you still there, Goff?
Yes. Yeah, man.
When we're thinking about Antarctica, the first thing that you come up with is images like this from the mid part of the 1800s. This is a painting of James Weddell's second expedition to Antarctica. So what we see, we can clearly see these vessels, right? Well before the Terra Nova left Cardiff in 1911. So these are other expeditions. There's lots of people. There's the French, there's the Russians, there's the British, there's the Americans, the Chileans. All these people are actually exploring Antarctica, right? So this all takes us into the 1800s. And there's lots of paintings and lots of sort of descriptions. And interestingly enough, this is really key to my argument, right? At this stage, what we do find is that, hang on a minute, let's put that up there a minute. Hang on, I don't want this moving everywhere. So what we do find is this map. And this is a map by Ortelius. This is in 1570, right? Now, Ortelius tells us that we've got land up in the north, or, it's ice. Ortelius, this is in the period that North and South America has already been discovered. But interestingly enough, at this point, nobody had ever been to Antarctica. So why is it on the map? Why is Terra del Fuego south of Chile actually on this map from 1570? If nobody's ever been to Antarctica and it doesn't know it exists, why is it on the map? Why is it, in fact, the biggest continent on the planet? Right, it's absolutely huge. In fact, Antarctica is actually pretty big, and we don't really know about the full land mass anymore. So this is one of the things. So his map, the Orbis Terratum, which is the land of the planet, the Earth of the planet. This is the thing. And when we look at this 1771, they've moved from showing Antarctica as a landmass to just before Captain Cook gets to South Shetland and South Georgia. This is 1771. And what we can clearly see is Antarctica is actually shown as just existing, but nobody's ever been there. So 1 minute, what we've got is Antarctica actually has a huge landmass, and the next minute, a few years later, actually 200 years later, Antarctica is actually shown as there's nothing there, but is actually marked there. There is probably something there. Terra Australis, right? Antarctica. Well, I don't know why we're calling it Terra Australis, because it's been known as Antarctica for a very, very long time. This is Captain Cook's map of South Georgia, and he's basically showing South Georgia in 1777, after he's reached these islands of South Shetland and the Isle of South Georgia in 1773. Can I just make a really interesting observation? And I'm going to say it. You know the way history is written. The other day, I was looking a little bit about the Falklands War, right? And I come across the piece, and it said that one of the greatest victories any country has ever had is the waterborne invasion that was undertaken by the Argentinians on the Falkland Islands, right? I didn't know that the British managed to get 1,000 troops together. Not 1,000 troops together, that's a total lie. They managed to get 100 troops together to try and stop the invasion of these Argentinians on the Falkland Islands in 1982. But it's marked down as one of the most successful invasions ever to take place, because the Argentinians only had 4 casualties. The British surrendered and ran away, and it was seen as one of the greatest military victories in history. We're not told that at school, are we? And the reason why I'm mentioning that is that it goes on the backdrop of what we understand politically, and who and where and what was going on with Antarctica, who got there first, right? It's the same type of thing. We write history. We see that the Falklands campaign was the greatest victory the British has ever had. It wasn't, right? We were lucky to get away with it. And the one thing about going back to the subtext, and that's slightly away from where we want to be, but Antarctica itself, who actually discovered it first? Why is it on the early maps? This is the point. Why is it there? My head's thumping. I go, why is it there? What's going on? So again, it was, and look at this. What we've got is Admiral Fabian Gottlieb, which we'll mention, this wonderful admiral in a short while. He's there in Antarctica, wandering around in the mid part of the 1800s. And again, what we've got is the map of exploration routes in 1911. We know about Amundsen, and we know about the likes of Captain Cook, the failed expedition to the South Pole by not Captain Cook, my God, Captain Scott. Big difference. Captain Cook never got to the center of Antarctica. Captain Scott. So the 11th of December, 1911. So the fact of the matter is, what we have is we've now got a map. We've now got a map of this, and one of the things with this map of Antarctica, it's been divided up into different territories. Canadian-born oceanographer, lots of people are interested. Adrienne de Galache. We've got all these different expeditions, all these little bits of images after. Basically, there was a heroic period of expedition, as I said, from the 1820s, the 27th of January, can't get any better than that, all the way through to about the 11th of December 1911. And again, the Terra Nova, Robert, the fated Captain Robert Falcon Scott's vessel, as it's heading through the ice all the way through to Antarctica itself. And this was a point I wanted to make earlier on. This is the point I was trying to say earlier on. What we do see is, you can imagine that bases that have been established in Antarctica from the 1820s, so 200 years ago, they soon get lost. But now, because of changes in the atmosphere and climate change, what we do see is these buildings slowly being revealed. So back to what I was trying to say, aerial photographs are now seeing archaeology that in the Cold War didn't exist because they were in the ice. So the archaeology that was, the buildings that were actually under the ice couldn't be seen except for a couple of chimneys sticking out, but now they can be seen. So you can get this sort of rich tapestry of a landscape associated with Antarctica. If you start to see polar bears wandering around, you're in the wrong area. And look at that, as time wore on, the vessels, this is Frank Hunley's expedition. And again, all these different things being found in Antarctica, and Edmund Hillary getting there as well. This is a French expedition by Jules de Urville. Again, this sort of expedition into the ice, into the lost land of the likes of Antarctica. Do you know what? A Norwegian expedition, actually, we were at Edmonton. And there we go. All these buildings that have been lost are now being found, which is absolutely amazing. I just want to get into my. There we go. Hope Bay. So these buildings are actual artifacts, and the other thing that must be said is of burials, human remains. Now, what we do find is that any human remains that are buried in Antarctica or the Arctic are so perfectly preserved that you can actually see the eyeballs underneath the eyelids as they were meant to be. And you can actually look into people's eyes and you can look into their souls because the bodies have been frozen instantly. In some cases, not all. And if you're looking for human remains, these frozen landscapes, you get some wonderful examples of mummified remains of individuals so perfectly preserved, very, very perfectly preserved indeed. And again, the expedition of 1958 onwards, exploring vessels in Antarctica. Things have changed. Things have changed in all these years. First women go into the pole as well. So Antarctica itself is one of those landscapes that sees a lot of firsts. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to stop the screen share there, and I'd like to go back to you seeing me on the screen instead of the images, which I know you want to see me. I know. Look at Goff; he's very confused. I can't see. You know, the problem is, right? I'm really disappointed with Goff is because I got to wait for another year before he goes to Madeira for me to have Madeira cake. I wonder if you can order them online all the way from Madeira. I think you probably can. So the history of Antarctica. Hey, Goff, are you into your pots of honey?
No, I don't like honey.
So why do you eat Madeira cake? There's bloody honey in it, for God's sake.
I don't. You do, I don't.
Hang on a minute. You buy me something that you don't even like?
Yeah.
All right, cheers, love.
Call the gift.
So I'm glad. I really, and also, so I can't get you some fudge either. That's a shame.
No, don't bother. Just give me a good lecture.
That's what you're getting. So the history of Antarctica emerges from. It's just. I struggle with what I'm about to read because it says early Western theories of a vast continent, right? So again, I said earlier on, why are people in Europe 2,000 years ago talking about Antarctica when they're not even talking about North and South America, right? This is what I don't get. You know, surely logical, intelligent people would have been arguing at the same time they're arguing that Antarctica exists 2,000 years ago, that there's something towards the west. Nobody's putting any land in the west, right? So I believe that maybe there was some knowledge that Antarctica did exist because people had probably been there or seen it 2,000 years ago. Now, it was argued by a chap by the name of Marinus of Tyre, who was a Greek geographer, cartographer, mathematician, overall. This was a guy. He founded this 100 years AD, or then again he was sort of redoing it. He was a Greek. This guy Marinus of Tyre came up with one of the earliest maps that influenced a certain Claudius Ptolemy's map or geography of the world that came out 150 years AD. So the work of Marinus of Tyre influenced Claudius Ptolemy's map of the world. So you know he's getting all this information, and it's what's happening. So the early thoughts of Antarctica, some of the earlier thoughts, because we do actually have early references to Antarctica by other geographers a little bit earlier than Marinus of Tyre. But Marinus of Tyre is basically arguing that if you've got the Arctic Circle, then you've got a southern Antarctic, right? Well, that sounds perfectly logical, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. Who says the Earth is round? Who says, if the Earth is flat, that people still argue, flat Earth society, still argue that the Earth is flat. If the Earth is flat, then why would you have a south, right? Why would you need, why do you need to have a southern bit, right? So people are still wondering about the Earth. So being a globe, people are still wondering about this being some kind of a sphere or a rugby ball shaped or a football shape. The globe. So he's saying that you've got a northern landmass and you've got a southern landmass. It's bloody good guesswork, isn't it? Considering the Americas don't exist until the Vikings get there, and that's 1,000 years on. I'm really into this. I'm really into why. When you think about the likes of Plato in the 330s, talking about Atlantis, right? If Plato hadn't mentioned Atlantis would have never existed. But lots of us still believe that Atlantis exists, right? So take away Atlantis never existed because Plato never ever wrote about it. We're saying Atlantis existed because it's written down. So in other words, the same theory is Marinus of Tyre must have known about Antarctica to have actually put on his maps. How did he know about it? He certainly didn't know about North America that also exists. I think he had some knowledge. I think there's something missing. We do know about Roman traders managing to get to Brazil. So why couldn't they have got to Terra del Fuego? Sort of the gap between the gap between South America and Antarctica. What's going on? So people thought, or did they already know, because it's already on maps 1,500 years earlier. So when people are rounding the Cape of Good Hope, which is the Cape, the southernmost Cape of South Africa, and you've got Cape Horn, which is the southernmost tip of South America, people are talking about Terra Australis Incognita or Terra Antarctica. Can I just mention as well, I've not mentioned it, but the term Antarctica was a term coined by Marinus of Tyre. He came up with the term, and we call it Antarctica today. Nearly 2,000 years on, we still call it the original name. Where the hell, then, are they getting this name in the 1500s of Terra Australis Incognita, which basically Australis, Antarctica, more or less the same root of word, means southern land. Incognito, well, I went incognito once, and basically incognito means in disguise or unknown. So it's very odd that people are talking about a place in the south when they've never been there. It's like having an internet dating relationship. I've got an internet wife, and not only that I've never spoken to her, I've completely made her up. But she does exist, and I met her last week. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't seem to make sense, any of this. Now, James Cook in 1773 claimed that the crew had crossed the Antarctic Circle for the first time. So in other words, the Antarctic is there. These islands are there. South Georgia, South Shetland is there. These things all exist. It's believed that Captain Cook got very, very close to Antarctica, very, very close. In fact, so close he could see it. So therefore he discovered it. Therefore it exists. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Right. It's discovered in 1773. He calls it Antarctica because it's already given a name and we already know it exists. But Captain Cook has discovered it in 1773. Call me a skeptic, right? But I believe there's something very, very queer about all this. I'm very, very queer. This is even more queerer. So on the 27th of January, 1820, that image of Fabian Gottlieb von Bellhausen led a Russian expedition in 1820, and with Mikhail Lazarev, you couldn't come, Mikhail Lazarev, nice name. So they basically discovered Antarctica on the 27th of January 1820. Did they? They discovered it. So the British didn't discover it, they discovered it. Not only does everyone discover Antarctica, and we know it already exists, but now the Russians claim to have discovered it in the 27th of January 1820. They put a flag there and they named the ice shelf Princess Martha Coast. Nice name. So the people it said that first set foot in Antarctica was this gang of Fabian Gottlieb and Mikhail Lazarev. They were the first ones that actually stepped foot there. Now, interestingly enough, this is like the scramble for Africa, isn't it? In 1878. Interestingly enough, on the 13th of January, the British got an expedition there in 1820. The British always last to get there. With all due respect, great respect to our Captain Scott. But anyway, the point is that the British got there 3 days later with their expedition. And they sighted the peninsula, and there was an Edward Branchfield and Nathaniel Palmer sighted Antarctica on the 17th of November 1820. Anyway, they sighted it, so how can they claim it? The blaming Russians got there first, surely. And then obviously you've got the Briton Robert Falcon Scott made the you've got the Norwegian Roald Amundsen finally reached the pole on the 13th of December 1911. I don't know where I got the 11th of December. Yeah, that's some relevance. So the 13th of December, and obviously Briton Robert Falcon Scott actually got there eventually. Now, can we just mention something about Briton Robert Falcon Scott? Now, obviously, we do know that he died. He managed to get there, and he died on his return. He died on his return journey on the 29th of March 1911. Scott led a party of 5 which reached the South Pole on 17th of January 1911, 5 weeks after Amundsen. Now, Robert Falcon Scott is a very intriguing character. And he's intriguing to me is that I always remember looking at the Great Western Railway Hotel, which is now the Great Western Railway pub, I think it's a hotel still in Cardiff, which is near the train station. And when you look at it, you look at the corner between and which looks onto St. Mary's Street, opposite where the statue used to be. Where did that statue go? Is that statue still there? I don't know. Oh, they moved it to contain. Oh, right. Can you remember? Who was that a statue of? Was that the Marquis of Bute or something?
No, it wasn't. It was John Corey.
Oh, right. Oh my God, they'll be ripping that down, won't they? Because of his links with exploiting people. Christ Almighty. Anyway, the point is that the statue was behind the many thousands of people who turned up and looked up at Robert Falcon Scott as he addresses the crowds on his fateful voyage on the Terra Nova. Actually get to the South Pole. Can I just ask just a question, right? Just an obvious question. How did they know they were at the South Pole? How did Amundsen know he was at the South Pole? I know they had all these gadgets to say that you were going somewhere, but how do you? There's no monument there, is there? Obviously, by the time Robert Falcon Scott got there, there was a Norwegian flag flying, right? But it's not the point. How do you know you're there? It's nothing but ice. Can you imagine? Me and Henry, right? Right, Henry, we'll discover it in a week, right? So we said that's enough. We found it. A nice bit of ice. We'll go home, right?
They could navigate.
What's that? I know it's navigation. I know it is.
All they need is a horizon and a celestial object, and you can find out where you are.
So I know it's all about navigation, but how do you know that the navigation equipment back then was that accurate? Because when you get to the South Pole, right, what makes it the South Pole? Can you explain that to me, please? I know you're a sailor, but tell me.
Well, they could find a way. Look at they're still using charts as Cook made now. So they knew what they were doing then. It was as good as sat nav.
So you reckon when they were standing on the South Pole, they knew it was the South Pole?
Well, say us about, yeah, let's put a flag in. You know, I'm sure that's what happens. Yes.
Right. Sorry, I went off on a complete tangent. Then
You did. You're losing the plot here.
Am I losing a plot?
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't mean having a go at a great hero like British explorer Robert Falcon Scott. I didn't mean to have a go at him, right?
I wasn't having a go at you about Scott at all.
No, I was having a go at myself. Anyway, can I just mention something? I know that Jessica will be phoning me, so I'm just going to make sure I got my phone there. Right, she'll be saying that how much of an idiot Jim is being today.
Oh God.
Apparently, Jim isn't so much of an idiot these days. Apparently, they keep him in check.
They tie him up.
Well, actually, I think somebody called him a knob the other day, and he wasn't too impressed. I can remember you calling him a knob as well.
Not to his face.
I did. Anyway, can I? This is really strange, right? This nice little bit of a fact. Now, just put this into your heads, right? I'm going to read the statement out quickly. Aristotle speculated, now, since there must be a region bearing the same relation to the South Pole as the place we live in bears to our pole. So in other words, in the North Pole as bears, right? There must be a South Pole. And this is what Aristotle speculated. Now, again, it goes back to my argument. So what's in the West? There's no land in the West, then, is there? It's just the East, right? Why isn't America on those early maps alongside Antarctica if this is all fantasy? Now, this is a rather interesting one. There's bits of whether I'm going to get this sorted or not. But here we go. Did you know that the Maori, in their oral history, are believed to have first recorded Antarctica as a landmass? It's said in their oral history in the early 600 years AD in a vessel known as the Te Ta Ukapai in the let's start again. That's the name they gave it. In the Te Ive o Etia, they renamed it the Te Uka Apai was the name that they gave to Antarctic, which basically means frozen ocean, right? So they said that they first found it, they first named it, they were the first proper people who got there, right? A Maori exploring vessel. You can imagine it, can't you? It's just like something out of a strange, weird movie. But anyway, so the Maori managed to discover Antarctica first. And they also called it the place of the arrowroot. And the reason why they called it the place of the arrowroot is because when you scrape the surface, it's almost as if the ice sort of with all the little sort of jagged bits looks like arrows, like little miniature arrows. So the Maori discovered it 600 years AD. However, this is disputed by the British. The British say that a certain Sir Peter Henry Buck says that when the oral history of the Maoris was written down in the 1800s, they just made it up. The British actually first found Antarctica in 1773. Can you see what's going on here? And it's basically argued by some historians that historians embellish the tales by adding details learned by European whalers and teachers to Maori history. But then again, why can't this history of the Maori be correct? We don't argue with Captain Cook. We don't argue with him in 1773, do we? So why can't the Maoris have discovered it first? So here's another little bit of information here, and my hair's flinging everywhere, and you don't like my hair flinging everywhere. You don't like my things flinging everywhere, do you, Goff?
Oh
no. So we this is getting very confusing because I've actually said that we knew about Antarctica 2,000 years ago because that's why it's on the maps. People had obviously been there, but then people have claimed to have been the first there to get there. So we've got the Maori in 600 years AD. And then we got a certain guy called Bartholomew Dias. Now, Bartholomew, we all had those old maps on our walls, didn't we? Bartholomew Dias. Bartholomew Dias in 1483 not only tells us that Antarctica exists, he's apparently the first who apparently touched the Antarctic cold, and this proved that Antarctica actually existed. So when he actually touched the Antarctic cold, are we talking about ice sheets? Are we talking about the land? Did he get to the land? Did he see the land? What's happening there, right? So in other words, this guy Bartholomew Dias is actually the first, apparently, one of the other first, out of the many first, the first European to actually get to Antarctica. This guy itself was actually from Portugal. He was funded to sail out there by the Portuguese kings. Bloody hell, I wouldn't have gone there, I've got to be honest with you. This is right, and it's got different names. Ferdinand Magellan passed the Straits of Magellan in 1520. So it wasn't the Straits of Magellan before Magellan passed it, but the Straits of Magellan are basically those straits between South America and Antarctica, right? And he assumed that the islands of Terra del Fuego to the south were in fact, these were islands, Terra del Fuego were in fact Antarctica. Del Fuego means the land of fire. Terra, land, the Fuego, fire, fireland. So one of the things is that we've now got a Spanish person saying that they can claim this wonderful land of Antarctica. So it gets more and more interesting. So it's a fight between all the geographers trying to get to Antarctica first. The land which is south of the Indian and Pacific Oceans, a vast continent stretching into parts into the tropics, the unknown southern land of Terra Australis Incognita. The search for this great south land or third world, oh God, don't call it that, was a leading motive of explorers in the 15 and 1600s. In 1599, according to an account by the Dutch Dick, observed mountainous land at a latitude of 64 degrees. He was called the Dutchman Dick Pomp. You can't make it up, can you? So a Dick is said to have discovered Antarctica. If so, these were the South Shetland Islands, which were then later claimed by the British. But in fact, it was discovered by the Dutch before anybody else. Oh my God, this is getting so bad. So anyway, the Spanish Gabriel de Castilla claimed to have sighted and discovered Antarctica in 1603. So in other words, everyone's discovered Antarctica, including Francis Drake and his mum. There was another guy, a guy whose name was given to Tasmania, obviously south of New Zealand in 1642. This guy called Tasman is said to have discovered Australia as well as discovering Antarctica and the Arctic Circle. So I am absolutely knackered with who discovered it and who didn't discover it. So what I'm going to do now, right, folks, I'm going to let's just have a little look at Bartholomew's not the Bartholomew's map. Let's go to Bartholomew's map a minute, because we haven't done Bartholomew's map. Let's just try and get Bartholomew's map on there. Hang on a minute. Let's have a quick look, see if we can get his map up, and then we'll have a quick break. Hang on. We got an image of his ship. It is Bartholomew Dias's ship. Well, that's good enough. We all know what his map looks like anyway. Let's have a look. I'm just looking at these vessels. They look actually quite interesting. Like a carvel of the day. So here we go. Let's have a quick look at this image. Right. So Goff can't turn around and say he didn't see any images today. There's not enough images. Sure. I knew you were going to say it, so I'm going to say it instead. Look at that there. That managed to get to, that managed in 1487. Now this, oh yeah. Right, okay. This is 1487. 5 years before 1492, when Columbus discovered North America, right? So why is it Antarctica is discovered before everywhere else? Surely it's so far away from Europe that nobody ever wants to go there. Can you see what I'm trying to get at? How is it this vessel managed to find Antarctica? But it did. Bartholomew on his voyage around the world, seeing all the continents and producing those maps that adorn every single self-respecting school history room background. So anyway, well, I'm absolutely pooped now. I want a break. Do you know what I might do is I might run naked and just share my body with the rain. Right. Goff was seeing that image then of me sharing my body with the rain. I don't have to talk some crap. Do you know, Michelle keeps saying that to me. Anyway, Goff, anything you'd like to say, darling? Because I know you've got to make a phone call, so we'll make it a 15-minute break.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't need to make a phone call. But so it's coincidence, really, isn't it? Because the Boaty McBoatface research ship is going down to Antarctica now. It's at Greenwich getting ready. That's a coincidence, isn't it? Going down to Antarctica to explore. But I'd have thought it was pretty obvious that the native Indians of Patagonia and Tierra del Fuego would have gone across to the Antarctica by boat, a long time ago. So
why not? Because why not? Yeah, why not? Because surely Easter Island is a massive distance from the nearest landmass. Was it 1,000 miles? So if
more than that.
Yeah. Hang on a minute. Yeah, it's a lot more than that, actually. Sorry. Do you know what I'm gonna do? Is a little bit of quick maths. I am done this, so we're gonna do a bit of maths. So distance between South America. Let's just have a little look at a fact and see if America and I'm going to say it's 500 miles, which is a lot less than going to Easter Island. Right, okay. Right, okay. The Drake Passage. I knew somebody with a Drake Passage. Do you know what? It's not helping me. Oh, what is this? What is this? What is the distance between the most southerly part? Oh my God! Do you know what? It's come up with 600 miles. It was only 100 miles out. So that's like half the distance to Easter Island. And why not? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. What did it? Hang on. What did it say? It's the Oh, hang on a minute. The fifth largest of the 7 continents. Well, nobody knew it existed. Of course they bloody did. I'm sorry. Why can't a European know it exists 2,000 years ago? Why not? What I don't, explorers are going down to South Africa, right? Which is going to be 1,000 miles away from Antarctica, right? But the fact of the matter is, what happened? Right, this is a point, right? What happens to ships that go off course and they end up in Antarctica, right? Where are all those bodies?
Exactly. Where are they?
Yeah, that's another question. That is another question, right? There would be people. Do you know when we looked at Easter Island and we looked at the likes of New Zealand? I said, what about people who went off course, like the Maori? Where did they go? They you can be in a boat and you can end up going somewhere, right? It's all these things,
But we're obsessed with Western explorers. We never sort of consider the natives, like the Maoris and the people of Patagonia. They used to explore as well, didn't they?
So did the Chinese.
Exactly.
How dare I? I haven't been I've been more obsessed with Western explorers, but I put the Maori one in. A Maori explorer in New Zealand, Maori. What the hell's all that about? It's great. Of course they existed. Of course they existed. And there was one reference, I don't even think I'm going to do it. I picked this up from somebody else about the Incan explorers. Why not?
Yeah.
Do
So,
you
yes,
know,
Antarctica, yeah.
do you know, I think the biggest thing about being somebody who likes to sail at sea is the sense of exploration. What's over that horizon? What is over there? What's over that curve of the earth? Right? And you know, what's next? And this is like somebody exploring land. I'm not going to say exploring on water is easier than exploring over land, but if you've got a decent vessel and you've got decent conditions, then it is easier because you don't have to go up and down hills and valleys and get killed. No, it's not easier, Goff, at all. The sea is very, very dangerous. But if you get the right conditions, as you know, you can have the most pleasant sailing time ever. You know, you've been out there, you've done it. I've been on a number of ferries, and when you have a nice ferry journey, it's the nicest experience ever, right? But when you have a bad ferry journey, it's the worst experience ever. It depends. It depends. Never again. Exactly. It's like meeting somebody in a dodgy car park. You get what you take. Right. Anyway, talking about dodgy car parks, Henri.
There's no car parks here, just fields.
Yeah, hang on. You do have little parking slots out some of the houses in on that estate in Wick. I know it, and those are where the poor people live.
Yeah, we just have a private drive.
Yeah, I know your private drive. It goes on forever. Hey, you're that private drive that's got a couple of houses leading off and it's hidden around. Yeah, I know the one. Yeah, that's how you picked up my leaflet.
Yes.
But
it was blown up the street.
Yeah, I think you said. Oh, so you didn't remember the time that I tied one of my ghost walk leaflets and chucked it through your window.
You did try to stick something through our letterbox, but the dog got it from next door.
Next door, yeah, exactly. Right, so you don't anything you want to say?
I sent you a couple of notes about early maps. Looks like the Egyptians might even have a claim on some of their early maps to Antarctica as well.
Oh, yeah.
So you're talking about, does the Piri-Reis?
That's the Turkish one.
And here we go. And you said the 5,000-year-old map of Egyptian making may show the landmass. Oh, why not? The Egyptians were great experts. How is it all these people were very rich? They must have been very rich because of the places that they were discovering and trade and understanding. Yes, I agree. So what we're actually, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to chuck that one on now. Hang on a minute. Help me a minute. Right. So we got the Piri. What's it called? The Piri-Reis map. I hope you spelled that right.
Yeah, Pirireis.
I've got it, boys. Bloody hell, it's raining, isn't it?
Not here.
Christ. Yeah, I think you were right. All right, okay. I just want to do this quickly, and then we'll have a break. Hang on a minute. Wait there, guys. Hang on. Yeah. This is that map we were talking about. Right.
That looks like it.
Yeah, it shows South America and it shows Africa. Oh Christ! What's that thing down there on the left? Or is that the other way around?
That's Antarctica.
Yeah, why not?
But it's shown with no ice or snow.
What, that little island there? Oh, right there, all the stuff at the bottom, exactly. Shown with no ice and snow, and why does it need? Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. That's a very good point. Very good point. Okay, on that note, we're going to take a break, folks. Anyway, thanks for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care, boys, girls, and hermaphrodites. I personally, I'm a hermaphrodite. I'm still trying to work out what one of them is. I said to somebody I was a hermaphrodite the other day. I don't know. ready to start, boys. It's my goat. Hello, how are you doing, Annie? It's my goat. Hello, look at you.
Oh dear. He's
Hello?
better looking than you are.
He is better looking than I am, isn't he? Look at him. I bet you don't often come to classes and have a goat there, do you?
No, I could do with a goat to do a bit of cutting of the lawn if he's available.
I tell you what, if you want to loan him for a week, 50 quid.
Do we get to eat him then?
No, you don't, you bastard. That's terrible. He's a living creature. Well, partly living. They are the animals of Satan, after all. Do you know, I was thinking of getting a copy of Salman Rushdie's Satanic Verses and reading it from end to end. No, I'm serious.
Is it still in print?
Yeah, but I'm sure I've never seen a bloody copy, but I'm sure you could. The thing is, Salman Rushdie. I'm listening to a play of his on the BBC Radio 4 Plus at this minute about the partition in India. About it was the 17th of March. Oh my God! If I remember the date, the 17th of March, 1947. That's right, isn't it? Hang on. We've got to get this right. We're going to fact check now. 17th of March. Hang on. We can't do this. Why am I thinking of 17th of March? No, that's not right. Can't be the 17th of March, can it? Right. Indian independence. Indian madness. Right. Indian independence. Here we go. Do you know what? It don't have to go through a lot of blooming nonsense here. Right. Sovereignty and partition. Let's have it. Oh, why? No, it's the 14th of August. 3rd of June. Hang on a minute. No. 3rd of June. That's into... Right. No, that's not right. 3rd of June, Viscount Boughton, the last British governor, announced the partition of British India. All right, with a speedy passenger independence, was declared a separate nation. All right, hang on a minute. I can't work out the date. So when was it then? So what was the actual day that they became independent?
I think it's 15th of August.
Why did I say March? What a stupid date. Why couldn't they have like the 1st of August? Do you know what I mean? So you can
15th
remember.
of August marks the anniversary of India's independence from the colonial Britain.
Does it say the colonial controlling evil British?
In a kind of way.
The evil slave trading bastions of hate. I just thought I'd put that in there.
Right. I'm pleased you did. Doesn't affect me.
Don't they? Oh yeah, you're Irish, aren't you? The bloody Irish you are.
Sure.
Right. I gotta get where we were.
Antarctica.
Map.
Egypt. Map.
Top of
Getting
the world,
lost.
Jason. Right. Okay. There's a weird thing I want us to do, and there's another one I want us to do. Right. I just got to make sure that I got them all there. Why am I looking at the Battle of Cold Harbor, a Confederate victory? Oh, we can't talk about the Confederacy anymore, can we? Racist. Right. So we got that. I like being a racist, guys. Hey, Father, I heard you're a racist now. That's great. Right, okay. Right, there's 3 things I wanted to do now, and obviously there'll be that phone call that I usually get. So if I suddenly disappear for a couple of minutes, you know why. It's the missus. So you two talk about the cricket. So, right, okay, we've got 4 things I want to do now. And so the first thing I'm going to do is just get into it, is archaeology in Antarctica. So is the archaeology of Antarctica, is this what I've presented, or is it something completely different? Antarctica was the last continent to be discovered in the 1800s. Is that correct? I say no. In order to become acquainted with the process of incorporation of Antarctica to the scope of the capitalist system, do we focus on modern history there, or the history of a land that may go far back? Official discourses about Antarctican history have focused on the well-known heroes who arrived in these territories: Captain Cook, the Russians on the 27th of January 1820. We go all the way through then to the Dutch, the Norwegian, Amundsen, and we go to the end of the heroic era with the death of Captain Scott in March 1912, isn't it? Archaeological research in Antarctica provides an alternative approach to understanding the mechanism by which this continent was incorporated into the scope of the capitalist system. So in other words, being in Antarctica, those reasons it was a scramble for Antarctica like it was a scramble for Africa. Is the difference between the scramble for Africa and the scramble for Antarctica that nobody lived in Antarctica, therefore we had all a just right to have it within the capitalist system? Or is there a lot more about Antarctica that we're now finding out about today? So these are all the points and issues which we really need to go to. Now, I've got a really strange article here. It was a very strange one that I read out at the beginning of the class on Tuesday. And then I want to go to the aerial photography stuff, and then I want to go to the Chilean woman, and then we'll have a chat at the end. Right. So, so what I want us to do, I want us to click on this. Hang on a minute. Hang on. Click. Sometimes, folks, sometimes you're doing research and you come up with something very different, right, than you should actually be looking at. So I'm just trying to find out. Hang on a minute. I just oh God, I'm having a grey moment. I'm putting more into this than I need to. Making like German preserve cake. This was here and it's gone, so I just gotta. I like to get the right angle. Served cake, and we've got nobody knows what I'm talking about. 79 years old. Right, if I can't get this, then I'll have to do it from a different angle. Right, okay, agreed. Right, okay. Oh, right, here we go, got it. Excellent, nice. Right, how do I do this? Well, I'm just going to screen share, folks. So let's just, otherwise I'm going to be all over the place. So screen share. Now, sometimes I'm doing research and I go it from a different angle, and I'm going to do this at a different angle now. It's just, it'll make sense. So just go with the flow. So when I was doing the research on Antarctica, I came up with something odd that led me to Antarctica, right? And what the odd thing is this. Now, it's a little article, and there it is. Lübeck, a cake. Now, that cake itself was found in Lübeck, and this is reported in 2021. A cake baked 79 years ago has been found in the Old Town district of the city of Lübeck, which is located near the coast of northern Germany. Dirk Reiger research said that the city, although a non-military target, was bombed by the British Royal Air Force on the night of the March 28, 1942, in retaliation for the Nazi Blitz of Coventry in 1940. How childish can you get? The cake was found in the remains of a building that collapsed into its cellar during the air raid. Later, a new house was built on top of the ruins, wrapped in wax paper. There it is. There's the cake. Wrapped in wax paper, the hazelnut and almond cake decorated with sugar icing was carbonized and preserved. Plates, knives, spoons, statues of Lloyd George, and vinyl records, including a recording of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, were found nearby. Because this was a family celebration, they listened to music, they wanted to have a nice cup of tea, they wanted to have this cake, and they didn't have their cake and eat it that day, sadly. It's a very intimate situation that was immediately destroyed by this war. And then, look at that, to read about a 106-year-old fruitcake found in Antarctica's Cape Adare, go to Super Fruitcake. So that's where we're going to go. But anyway, if we go back, and there's the carbonized cake. I wonder if, you know, I've eaten burnt cake. Look at the decoration on that there. Look at that. And all that's all, oh my God, look at that. It's all perfectly preserved. Wow. I haven't seen that image. I haven't actually seen that image. Oh, that's unbelievable. My God, look at all the decoration, the icing and stuff. Oh, that's fantastic. I haven't seen that one. Let's see if there's any more images. Sorry, I've gone off on one. I'm allowed to go off on one. So basically, they say that the cake looked like that originally, right? But because it's been carbonized, it ended up looking like that, which is there. I think that's amazing. Look, that's where the icing would have been, and there's hazelnuts on it and everything. Oh my God, that's amazing. Sorry, I've gone off on tangent. Right, so what we need to do, we need to go where I was meant to be, which is get rid of that. There we go, Super Fruitcake. There. Guys, have any of you got a penchant for fruitcake?
Definitely not.
I'm sick of you. What about you, Henry?
I can be partial to a slice.
Would you have a slice of that with me and a cup of tea?
Definitely the cup of tea.
I gotta be honest with you, you coward. I'm sure that would be as nice as it was when it was baked. That fruitcake there, Cape Adare, Antarctica, a nearly edible Huntley and Palmer's fruitcake, has been discovered in a hut on Antarctica's Cape Adare. It is thought to have been left behind in 1911 by members of a British expedition. How dare they leave a perfectly fine
We've lost you.
fruitcake like that behind in nice? Can you bear with me a minute? Are you there?
Yes.
Hi guys, I've got that. Are you there?
Yep.
I got that call a minute, so I'll be back.
Okay.
Yeah, talking of fruitcakes. He's gone.
I don't know where he's gone. I think he's gone to eat the fruitcake.
He usually has a call from Michelle, doesn't he?
I think he's just got one. So I don't
Yeah.
know if she's laying down the instructions for him.
Yeah. So, did you find out about the Karl's lectures from his flyers?
I think it was actually, yes. We had a flyer through the door, and I thought it was a good way to start. Well, initially it was because I obviously don't come from this area. It was to kind of meet other people and also try and learn a little bit.
Yeah.
Of course, then the pandemic comes along, and you suddenly find actually you're not meeting many people. You're just sat at home. But
well, you met
actually,
Karl.
I find the Zoom lessons much more informative than I found the classes.
His when we used to meet in the town hall before, it was pretty good, but it got a bit full, and there were a few sort of clashes of personality, which happens, isn't it? So that's eliminated in a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, but I find them much more informative than I think the classes.
I agree with you. Yeah, but have you ever done one of his ghost walks? Or
No, I haven't.
they're a laugh. That's how I first started. That's how I met him. Ghost walk. Yeah, they're all right. You do one once, and that's it.
It's a one-off experience.
But he keeps getting told off by the locals. What are you doing here? Oh, right. Shut up. You can imagine, can't you?
Oh dear. He might not come back. I don't know if is he living in a caravan in this West of Wales location?
I think he is. Yeah, I think he is. Yeah. I don't think they've got a house there yet. Oh. I really don't know what he's up to. Who knows?
Wonder if he is going to come back.
You'll have to hurry up. I'm going shortly.
Where are we? Well, it's nearly lunchtime. I don't think this is going to make interesting YouTube viewing. Sat here doing nothing.
Sometimes he's infuriating, isn't he?
I'm just going to go and greet the postman. Be back in a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually interesting what we're doing with his post. And he's gone to Cyprus. Yeah, still no sign of him.
Oh, he's got a couple of minutes and I'm off.
Right. I'll hang on a bit longer.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a minute and I'm off.
It's got a minute.
You've been-
Oh, he's back.
Thanks for your patience. Now back to that cake, right? I would want to eat that cake. I don't give a damn what Goff says about that cake. No, come on. There's nothing wrong with that cake. I'm sure we'd love it, right? The only thing about that cake is they were talking about a bit of a smell with it, right? Because of the smell, the wrapping on the outside, the butter had a little bit of a rancid smell, but that's it. But how dare these they would have been naval men as well. How dare they leave this thing in the first place? You know what I mean? They should have eaten it. It's sacrilegious against fruitcakes.
got this affiliation with fruitcakes, haven't you?
Yeah, what? What are you on about? Right, hang on, man. Let's get.
Do we want to read your inbox?
That sounds rude. Right, are we looking at this image now? You know that looks great. Do you know that looks like you could go? Yeah, you could go somewhere and buy that, like Harrods today. It looks absolutely gorgeous. A Huntley and Palmer's fruitcake. Do you know what? How mad that the person who actually found this actually ripped the wrapping. You know what I mean? There's a tear in it. It ruins the perfection. So anyway, that links in with the other bit of the cake. I mentioned that there was a little bit of a weird link with that cake in Lubeck. So the discovery of a 106-year-old fruitcake on Antarctica's Cape Adare may help redeem the delicacy's much maligned reputation. So here we go. The centenarian cake was found by a team from the Antarctic Heritage Trust in the continent's oldest building, a hut erected in 1899. I tell you what, that's a bit of a bloody cake claim, isn't it? The oldest building on Antarctica from 1899. It's a bit like when you speak to Americans. Oh, good old US of A. Our buildings in the US of A only date to the late 1690s. That's the oldest history we've got in America. That's what it sounds like. So obviously there's lots of older stuff in Antarctica, particularly the Sealers buildings that we do know about, which were constructed in the 1820s that we're actually starting to find across. And it is thought to have been left there in 1911 by members of the Northern Party, part of British explorer Robert Falcon Scott's Terra Nova expedition. Could that have been touched and smelt by the very captain of wonders, Captain Robert Falcon Scott? You know, he could have actually touched that. He could have actually felt it, you know, amazing. The tin holding the Huntley and Palmer's fruit cake was somewhat rusty. Well, it would be. Those cakes are meant to last. But the cake itself was in fine shape, likely due to cold, dry conditions. It felt and looked like a new fruit cake. Lisa Meek, the trust program manager, it was only if you got quite close to it that you could smell that slightly off smell of butter that's gone wrong. But other than that, whenever, if us guys ever see each other live, right? If you ever get offered a bit of fruitcake by me, ask the question.
How old is it?
How old is it? Right? Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's been suggested. Jessica's been told that there's a Christmas do on the 16th of December for the Lanswick Major class. Should we have an online class? The three of us. You could bring your missus along, Henry. Goff could bring Eleanor along, and I could bring my witch along as well.
Carl, I'd like to know more about that Christmas party. I might go.
Yeah, maybe we should. But honestly,
They haven't invited me.
Oh God.
Oh dear.
Oh my God.
It's all going to go wrong now.
It's all already gone wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned it. Oh, right. Oh, okay. You want to go to their Christmas party? Do you go?
Well, I want to know more about it.
Oh.
Part of the group, aren't we?
Well, you are. You're part of the in-group, the ones who do online, the hundreds of us.
Well, we're all together, aren't we? We're interchangeable. We're.
All right then. I will have a word with Jess.
I'm sure Henry would consider coming down to Llantwit for a lovely Christmas lunch with what's his name, Jim.
No. This is why Henry does online, because he's not stupid. Oh no! Oh my! No, I've even made things worse for myself, haven't I? So Henry's not stupid for not wanting to go, and then that means that, oh God, right? I'm in a hole. Right.
You carry on digging. That hole's getting very deep.
Yeah, it is. So do you really seriously want me to ask him, Goff?
Of course.
Oh, no.
I'm part of the group. I haven't left the group, have I?
No, you're part of the Oben Scruben Ruben Gruben.
I was the one that instigated the very first Christmas party.
Yeah, that is true. Bit of the old instigation. Yeah, that's true.
What about it?
Yeah, well, I've only just been told today.
All right. Okay, we'll give him well, I expect to be nosy for it.
Henry. Do you believe this hole has got really deep and I've got to...
I think your hole has got very deep.
Yeah, just, oh God. Oh,
you're bound to find something at the bottom of it soon.
Yeah, I'm there. Right, okay. Right, okay. So, well, what we're going to do, I'm going to mention about... all right, have we done right? I want to do that. I'm going to mention that. Hang on a minute. Just I've got the bones there, which we're going to do. Right. Okay. Are we screen sharing at this minute?
Yes.
All right. Okay. I just wanted to mention about this Cold War stuff. I mentioned it quite a lot actually at the beginning, and it's the archaeologist belief that we can really understand the history of the historic history of Antarctica by examining change involving ice and change involving the very first days that we get buildings being erected by Westerners. Did you notice the word Westerners from the 1820s onwards? And archaeologists are very excited to get access to all that aerial photography that exists from spy aircraft from the 1960s, particularly from 1966 onwards. And all these photographs have been declassified. I don't really think that the Russian stuff has been declassified. I'm not sure you'd get access to that, but I'm sure that if that was accessible, then we could really sort of glean a lot more from other countries' footage. So I'm just going to mention this one thing here, this little bit of an article here. Things in Antarctica, an archaeological perspective. This is from 2020. So lots of things about Antarctica are very much new. This is about an academic paper. The representation of Antarctica as the last wilderness overlooks not only the presence of humans, but also of material things that we just mentioned with the aerial photograph and the cake and so on, and does not reflect the reality of contemporary Antarctica. Human-thing relationships have existed there, although largely unnoticed since the 1800s. So there's people writing articles now in 2020 contributes to thinking about the genealogy of human-thing relationships in Antarctica. I never come across that word human thing before. Relationships in Antarctica, by presenting an analysis of how the process of living with things has developed over time. Based on available historical and archaeological information, this study explores human-thing relationships during sealing and whaling activities inside the huts of the heroic era of Antarctican exploration from the 1820s to Captain Falcon Scott's death in 1912. So the heroic era of Antarctic exploration. Throughout the period of the settlement of permanent scientific stations and after the coming in force of the Madrid Protocol, from an archaeological perspective, we're looking at which emphasizes how things are not inert. You know, things are not frozen forever. They change, establish relationships, and that humans in Antarctica have often become entrapped in their relationship with things rather than the actual knowledge of being there. It is the hope of some of this work to explore into the topic will stimulate critical thoughts on human-thing relationships in Antarctica. A new word, human thing there. And this leads me directly onto the last piece today, which is actually here. Now, this is actually from the BBC website. This is dating to 2018. But I want to start by mentioning something else. So read out the headlines. The bones that could shape Antarctica's fate. Excellent. Well, last year, or actually, no, it was this year. It was this year. There was an article published about an artifact being found in Antarctica that may date way back. And I haven't heard anything since about that. And I didn't actually find anything about that on the internet today. And there was something published not so long ago. Can you remember that, Henry? There was like an article about a really old artifact being found, just one artifact in Antarctica, and they're making a lot of fuss about it. Remember that?
Not I can recall at the moment. I'm just I'll have a quick look.
I had a quick look myself and I couldn't find it. In fact, I had a big look on it. So it's 2021 new discovery, right? But anyway, this article here, in 30 years' time, I mentioned this, the treaty that maintains harmony in Antarctica, Madrid Protocol, will be up for review. Could archaeological discoveries there influence the continent's future? Now, this is very interesting. It's a very short piece. Well, no, it's not actually a short piece, but it fills in everything that I wanted to do, actually. So we'll go through all this. In 1985, a unique skull was discovered lying on Yamana Beach at Cape Sharif in Antarctica's South Shetland Island. We mentioned South Shetland Islands near the tip of the likes of Southern America, right? It belonged to an indigenous woman from southern Chile in her early 20s, thought to have died between 1819 and 1825. So if she died in 1819, she was there 1.5 years before the Russians, the Chilean. Good point that you made earlier on, Goff, about all these different explorers and other people doing things in the world other than Westerners. It was the oldest known human remains ever found in Antarctica at this moment. This was 2018. The location of the discovered skull was unexpected. It was found at a place known as Beach Camp, used by sealers throughout the 1800s, near remnants of her femur bone. She's a female sealer, maybe, which is unheard of at the time. For a Chilean sealer, it's fine. Why not? Why can't you have female fishermen? There are no surviving documents explaining how or why a young woman came to be in Antarctica. Well, you wouldn't say the same about why a young man was in Antarctica. Why wouldn't a woman be there? Do you know what I mean? Now, at nearly 200 years old, the skull is thought, it is over 200 years old now. The skull is thought to align with the beginning of the first known landings in Antarctica. Known, that's an operative word. Known landings in Antarctica. The Yamana Beach skull was a significant find, but it was found 30 years ago and nobody said anything about it, you know? It's found in 1985, well, over 30 years ago. In 30 years' time, bones such as these may come into play in territorial claims for this pristine wilderness. So we find human remains, so that means that those people have got a right to that land. Okay, so if we find remains of Egyptians in Antarctica, then does that mean that they have a claim to Antarctica? Is that what we're saying? Nations are quietly, and sometimes not so quietly, preparing to stake their rights as the owners of large tracts of the uninhabitable land of Antarctica. Lots of people just don't understand that there's a darker side to Antarctica. What we're seeing is great power politics play out in a space that a lot of people think of as just frozen waste, but it won't be then. There'll be a lot more land. So this is what we're talking about. This is a map of who claims Antarctica now, right? New Zealand, Australia, France, Raw New Zealand, Norway, UK, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, bit more Norway, and Mary Bird Land. I think that's sort of a free zone, right? But a lot more people have interest in this, including the Russians and the Chinese, and that's the thing. So the Antarctican treaty system was first signed in 1959, and we got the Madrid Protocol as well of 1998. And environmental protection was added. It states that Antarctica is to be a natural reserve devoted to peace and science. Archaeology has a key role to play in that sense of scientific research. But this is not set in stone forever. In 2048, 50 years after the protocol was created, this part of the treaty could come under review. Hang on a minute. Yeah, over this Madrid Protocol. That is the date when the prohibition on mining and resource extraction could, and it's a big could, be altered and done away with. But I believe that, things will have changed by then. The reason 2048 looms large is because of its certain countries feel that the prohibition on mineral exploitation is no longer to be respected. Environmental protection is one of the key headlines of the treaty. So we've got all these countries involving all these countries. Norway, Great Britain, New Zealand, France, Chile, Australia, Argentina. We mentioned Brazil as well. The claimant states, because Brazil's got like a bit of a claim, and lots of other countries do. But that box will never be thrown away. It's saying the claimant states, in a sense, keep their claims in a box, if you like, with a lid on it. Whatever that means, obviously. So here we go. China and Russia are big players. So archaeology, this is where archaeology comes in. As a result, many countries are sending feelers out to Antarctica in a number of ways, such as financing scientific research, historical investigation, and building research bases far and wide around the continent. It's a very clear message to the wider world. We're in the whole space. Archaeologists established an interest, if not the stake, in future discussions. Archaeology is one of the most important activities, says Michael Pearson. It established an interest, if not a stake, in future discussions about territorial claims or commercial exploitation. While archaeological finds like the discovery of the Yamana beach skull carry no legal weight, the woman was more likely to have been a sealer than an official. They might just challenge the known timeline of the continent's history. So we've already moved it back a little bit. We've got people on Antarctica before the Russians actually land there on 27th of January, 1820. If Chile can demonstrate that it had people living in Antarctica earlier than other nations staking land claims, then they have a stronger hand in negotiations. Amazing that. Archaeological discoveries can also boost political support for a case back home. So in other words, the Chileans can say, look, you've got a right to be there. When remains or objects are found in the ice, I could see straight away it would inflate territorial nationalism. Archaeology has always been really important for national politics. Here we go. There's a shipwreck there as well, not just the Yamana skull. In 1819, a Spanish frigate known as the San Telmo was wrecked on the Drake Passage. We're back to Drake's Passage again, which separates the tip of Chile from the Antarctican Peninsula. Archaeologists have searched the Antarctic islands for signs of whether any crew made it alive to the shore. So again, if they did make it to the shore, the Spanish have got a claim. That's what we're saying. Shipwreck remains were found there washed up on the South Shetlands. Quite possibly some of the crew survived on the floating wreckage. If there were survivors, they would have beaten the British to be the first in Antarctica. But the Russians were. Oh my God. The upside of all this attention is that a single nation's investment in archaeology can reveal artifacts and remains that can enlighten the whole world discoveries that might never otherwise have been found. But there's a political motive, as we've already said. The underlying nationalistic ambitions of the countries, be they overtly expressed or covert motivations, can be beneficial. They provide funding and logistical support to carry out archaeological research, which is otherwise very hard to get. And it could mean that this could mean billions and trillions of pounds in the long run if they can say that we've got people who've been there first. And finally here, the last word today, for the Chilean woman whose skull was found on Yamana Beach, the most likely conclusion is that she was caught up somehow in a sealing mission to Antarctica. She may have drowned or died of exposure on the shore, but her bones remain among the most significant archaeological discoveries ever made in Antarctica. And they are now part of a much bigger picture of soft power and national pride, all to do with archaeology in the context of the political long game of laying claim to the frozen continent. So the evidence of archaeology could be used to offer a country a stake in this wonderful wilderness of Antarctica. And on that note, let's finish. Well, any questions, Goff?
No, that was very good, very interesting.
Very enlightening it was today. It was lovely. Did we? Thank you for that, Goff. Goff. Oh God, what's his name now?
Henry.
Wonderful Henry, right? I got to remember this Christmas meal thing as well, haven't I? So, Henry. Yeah.
No, yeah. I've found the map scenario very interesting. The fact hundreds of years ago, if not thousands of years ago, this area of landmass is being depicted on maps.
Yeah, and why? Is it? Yeah, how did they know to put it on there? Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, look at this. Why didn't we just invent land towards the west, and they didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really intriguing, you know, and obviously it's unfortunate some of these early maps have all disappeared in various archives, which have gone up either in flames somewhere along the line, which is a great shame.
And also the ones that have survived may have been altered and changed, like the various Mapamundis that we got around the world. Interesting, we were talking about this on the Mapamundi, the Hereford Mapamundi, was it from the 1400s or whatever? We've got earlier maps and earlier people describing Antarctica, but on those Mapamundis, Antarctica is not mentioned. But then North America, then suddenly it starts to be mentioned again. It's just one of those things. It's just the confusion of history, folks. The confusion. A bit like me, I'm very confused about life.
Right.
Okay. On that note, is there anything you would like to say, Goff or Henry?
No. What's next week?
What's that?
Next week.
Right. Can you give me a couple of my grey cells? Oh yes, the Hebrides is next week. We're doing the Hebrides.
Ooh, good.
No, we've not done the Hebrides. We've done Orkneys. Big difference. Hebrides, Orkneys. No.
Okay, good.
We look forward to that.
You look forward to it. If you leave me now, you take away the greatest part of me. Ah, baby, please don't go.
Bye-bye.
It's time to go. Bye-bye.
Right. If there's no other questions, Goff and Emery, it's been a delight seeing you this week. I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Christmas meal. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, you get the Christmas meal sorted.
Oh God, I'm in deep shit now. What a hole I dug for that one. Oh God, what an absolute bloody funding that was.
You'll get to the bottom of it.
I don't want to get to the hole. I want to get out.
Right, I'll leave you.
I don't want to be in that hole. Save me.
I think you pass the hot potato to Jessica.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to phone her now.
Right, I'll leave you to it. Have a good week.
You have a great week. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. See you. Anyway, thanks for joining us this week. Hope for this live has been good. And thank you very much. And sorry about the breaks and stuff.